Hello everybody, welcome to the I Am IT YouTube channel. My name is Shabazz Dar and as ever I'm the IT Geek. Welcome back to another episode within my SC100 Microsoft Cybersecurity Architect exam series. We had a bit of a break while I was on holiday. Well, it's a week's break. I did record quite a few and uploaded a few while I was in preparation for when I was away. But there's like a week gap from when I got back. Just trying to catch up on work and other things at home as well. But we are back and we've got a good stretch of episodes lined up, so we can crack on with this series and hopefully finish it and allow you to prepare for your exams as well. More importantly. So we are moving on to a new topic today. So let's get started with this episode. So as I mentioned, this is a Microsoft Cybersecurity Architect exam, which is the SC100 Microsoft exam. And this is the start of topic 6, and this is part 1 of the topic. So this topic is actually for designing solutions for identity and access management. So a lot of IAM capabilities here. And today specifically, we're going to talk about designing cloud, hybrid and multi-cloud access strategy. Then we'll jump into a demo and look at Entra a little bit. Now, this is obviously this is quite an in-depth topic. So we've actually got 4 episodes in this topic. So be warned. So let's talk about designing cloud, hybrid and multi-cloud access strategies first of all. So some foundational components we really need to be aware of when we first start talking about identity. Now, identity is that basis of the wide variety of security assurances. Essentially, it grants access as well based on your identity, authentication, authorization controls in your cloud services. And we'll talk about a little bit more of those as we go through this little mini topic. Your access cloud control protects your data and your resources, and that kind of decides which requests should be permitted and which should be blocked. Identity access management is going to let you let the right person across that sort of user group you've got access the right resources and at the right time as well, and for the right reasons. Mostly depending what we tend to find is depending on the user's role they have in the company, what role they have, kind of defines what access they're going to have as well. IAM is also this is a new boundary security, and I think I've mentioned this a few times before in many of my different videos as well. IAM is a new networking as far as I'm concerned. Networking used to be that boundary from an on-premises perspective, but now with public cloud, IAM has taken over that role in my opinion. Networking's still there, but it's more for an infrastructure, whereas with PaaS and SaaS services now being so prominent in public cloud as well as IaaS, but now identity is really the one thing that sort of joins them all together, and is that perimeter. And you must be treated as the sort of foundation. IAM needs to be treated as the foundation of any sort of secure and fully compliant public cloud architecture. So obviously we've got to talk about the old IAM, not the old order, the more historic versions of IAM, which was Active Directory or AD. And there's some user management aspects that we want to kind of differentiate between. So we've got a couple of different slides on this. So when it comes to provisioning users, in Active Directory or AD, you create internal users manually, and you can use your in-house or automated sort of provisioning system to script that as well. With Microsoft Entra ID, which is obviously Microsoft's cloud IAM, you can sync identities to the cloud with Microsoft Entra Connect from on-premises. You can also auto-create users and integrate that with your cloud HR systems, or you can provision identities in your sort of SCIM for enable SaaS apps as well. When it comes to provisioning external identities, again, from an Active Directory perspective, we need to create those manually, but as regular users in a sort of dedicated external AD forest. Whereas with Microsoft Entra, you have a special class of identity to support external identities. And Azure AD or Microsoft Entra B2B manages the link to the external user identity. So again, more automation. You're going to see kind of a bit of a theme with AD when it's a lot of manual work, whereas Entra allows you to automate those relationships. And then when we go to the final there on this slide, which is entitlement management and groups, from an Active Directory AD perspective, administrators make users members of your group, and the sort of app and resource owners then give group access to apps or resources. But from a Microsoft Entra perspective, you assign membership to groups manually or use a query to using dynamic groups, and that's for users, groups, and devices. Entitlement management in Microsoft Entra is to give users access to a collection of apps and resources using sort of workflows and if necessary, time-based criteria. So again, a lot more functionality and again, a lot more automation there. I've talked about aspects 4 to 5 now. And the concept again of users and admin management. In Active Directory AD, Organizations use domains, organizational units and groups to sort of delegate admin rights. But when it comes to Microsoft Entra, you have built-in roles with Entra ID, role-based access control. And this is going to have support for custom roles as well, which you can delegate privileged access to the sort of identity system, the apps and resources it controls. And finally, you've got what we call privileged identity management (PIM) for sort of just-in-time, time-restricted, and workflow-based access to those privileged roles. Again, a lot more granular, a lot more control, and a lot more automated. Finally, we have this concept of credential management for users. And from an Active Directory AD perspective, credentials, passwords, certificate authentication, smart card authentication is within AD. And also passwords are managed using password policies. But for Entra, we have intelligent password protection for sort of cloud and on-premises multi-factor authentication and passwordless technologies like FIDO2. We also have self-service password reset (SSPR). Again, a lot of automation, easy to manage, less emphasis on the emphasis on sort of administrators who do that work. So let's move on now to talk about Active Directory based services in Azure. So Active Directory domain services to start with. So obviously this is Enterprise ready, lightweight, or LDAP service, so lightweight directory access protocol. So its key features include identity and authentication, computer object management, group policy, and trust as well. And it's a central component in many businesses with sort of on-premises IT environment, and it gives that business that core user account authentication and computer management features that they need. So this is very legacy, authentication. And obviously, when we talk about cloud, we've got more up to date. And then let's talk about Active Directory based services in Azure. Again, we're talking about Microsoft Entra. So this is a cloud-based identity mobile device management. Again, it provides account and user authentication services to M365, the Azure portal, but also SaaS applications as well, including ones within Azure or Microsoft and with outside or third party. You can synchronize obviously your on-premises ADDS environment with cloud with Entra, and that's going to provide you a single identity or a hybrid identity that allows users to work sort of natively in the cloud as well. And then we have Microsoft Entra Domain Services, which is the other Active Directory based service in Azure. So this is, again, it's provide domain services with a subset of fully compatible and traditional AD features, and this includes domain join, group policy LDAP, and Kerberos/NTLM authentication. Integrates with the Microsoft Entra ID, it can synchronize, which in turn can synchronize with your on-premises ADDS environment. Also extends central identity use cases to traditional web applications that run in Azure as part of a sort of a lift and shift strategy. By no means is it a replacement for Active Directory domain services on premises. No way near that. And personally, in my own experiences, I wouldn't recommend it for that. Although when it first came out, it was quite exciting and it looked like it would be able to fulfill a lot of use cases. That's not been the case, practical element. And we've seen that with AVD as well. It's not had that great integration with AVD, especially when it comes to user profile management and stuff like that. So let's talk about cross-cutting design recommendations. So we talk about using centralized delegated responsibilities. You base that on sort of on role and security requirements to manage resources inside that landing zone. There are some privileged operations though that do require special permissions. So creating service principals, for example, registering applications in Entra ID, procuring enhancement certificates or wildcard certificates, as well as accessing apps that use on-premises authentication remotely using Entra ID or using Entra ID app proxy as well. You should really consider which users will be handling these sort of requests and how to adequately secure and monitor their accounts as well. Let's continue this topic of cross-cutting design recommendations. So, make sure you design your network to ensure your domain controlled access. So, for resources that do require Active Directory domain services on Windows Server for local authentication and management specifically. And make sure, especially for Active Directory domain service on Windows servers, you consider sort of a shared service environment that offers sort of local authentication and host management in a larger sort of enterprise-wide network context as well. Make sure you use availability zones with your Entra domain services as well. So deploy Entra domain services within the prime region. You can also expand that to further regions with sort of replica sets as well. And from a managed identities perspective, the recommendation is to use this instead of service principals or for authentication to Azure services as well. So when we talk about Azure identity and access for landing zones, deploying conditional access policies is a must, and making sure you enforce MFA as well for that additional authentication. And it's definitely worth using service principals for sort of non-interactive resource sign-ins, as well as using Microsoft Entra ID managed identities for your Azure resources as well. So using user managed or sort of service managed identities. And finally, use Defender for Cloud for your sort of just-in-time access to all your infrastructure as a service IaaS resources. So sort of best practice really. So let's kind of divulge a little bit more into, before we finish this episode, or before we go into the demo, should I say, let's talk a little bit about landing zones, payment RBAC specifically. So payment is going to allow you to map your organizational roles to your minimum access levels needed, so that least privilege access zero trust model. And you can use Entra ID PIM access reviews to periodically validate resource entitlements and make sure you're constantly reviewing the access. And then you can use privileged identities for automation runbooks as well that require elevated access permissions. And then we talk about sort of B2B direct connect as well. You can use role-based access control in Azure to manage data plane access to your resources, which includes Key Vault or a storage account or even a SQL database. But don't add users directly to Azure resource scopes as well. Direct user access circumvents centralized management. It just makes the process longer. Make sure you add users to define roles and assign the roles to resource scopes. So that is the end of the theory. We're going to jump into the portal now. We're actually going to jump into the Entra portal and look at some of the features that are available for you, when you are designing your sort of IAM capabilities. Let's jump into the portal. Welcome back. We are in the demo portal. We're actually, I'm on my AVD tenant here, or my AVD client. I'm actually connected to my Entra Connect server. And we were talking about hybrid identities, so I thought I'd actually show the actual Microsoft Entra Connect tool, or what used to be called the Azure AD Connect tool. Microsoft haven't updated the application as of yet. My version's not updated yet. But this is the Azure AD Connect or Microsoft Entra Connect tool, and I've kind of installed it on a Windows server that's on my domain. And here we can see we can configure additional tasks. We've already done the initial configuration. I'm doing regular syncs. But here, the ones I was talking about was kind of looking at configuring, looking at the sort of customization of the synchronization options that we can do. So here I need to authenticate first of all. So I need to log in with some global admin credentials. And then again, if I've got any more directories, I can add those. Here's where I can kind of select specific. So this is my imitgeek.com domain, and this is my sort of OU hierarchy. So here I can select specific folders or specific OU, that I want to synchronize, or I can unselect them. And then we've got additional features. Obviously, I've got password hash sync set up along with password write back. I can get group write back as well if I had the relevant licensing. And device write back enables conditional access as well on premises to on-premises resources. But I need, but this feature's moved to device options, so we'd have to go to device options. So we'll take a look at that as well. And then we can click on next. Again, don't need to enter our credentials. And we click on next to then finish that configuration. But if we look at configuring device options here as well, so this is a bit outside the IAM capability, but it's still hybrid devices. We've got hybrid AD join, and we've got device write back as well, which we can enable. And again, you put in your password, you can configure the different device options. When we go to change user sign, this is where we can enable or disable single sign-on. We can also select the sort of method we want, sign-in method. So I'm always using password authentication, but you can change this to password hash sync or ADFS if you want, so you can set that up. Or even now they've got federation with ping federate, or just don't configure, and we can disable or enable single sign-on as well. So I just wanted to show some of the sort of hybrid features we can use with Azure AD Connect and synchronize our on-premises identities. And again, this is all something you think about when you're looking at designing your security solutions. And for the exam, it's going to be important to understand the functionality. So definitely worth installing that in your demo tenant. So hopefully we're just starting off on topic 6. Got a lot more to go around the Entra piece and the identity piece. We're going to look at collaboration and external identities in the next episode. So that should be good fun. and we'll do another demo around B2C and B2B in the next demo. So, yeah, thank you everybody for watching. Make sure you use the useful links I've put in the description. Obviously, my socials are there, but also a link to the GitHub repository where some of the case studies are for this exam, as well as the Microsoft Learn links as well for this exam. If you want to do something free, I definitely recommend doing Microsoft Learn content, really good free content as well. And finally, there's a link to the Measure Up practice exam, which you can purchase. I definitely recommend doing that as a discount on it at the moment. And again, it's just going to help you with your preparation, so I definitely recommend that. So, I do appreciate everyone supporting my channel, watching, and also, if you're not subscribed, why not get subscribed? I'm kind of I hit 10k not long ago, and I'm kind of moving. I've kind of got a new target at the end of the year, which is 20k. So I'd really appreciate everyone supporting that. But yeah, thank you everybody for watching. Until next time, goodbye.